All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are so glad to have you here as a participant and also all of our wonderful panelists today. We are bringing you our third virtual career fair. This is part of our spring campaign where we're focusing on some great resources for juniors, but of course, as a virtual career fair, this is welcome to everyone. So we are so glad that we have all kinds of folks here. In the control panel, you'll find the mute stuff. Just stay muted if you can. We would appreciate that. My name is Dr. April Cleary. I'm the CFNC Assistant Vice President for College Access and Community Outreach with College Foundation. And we also have Kate Freeland joining us with College Foundation. She is our outreach assistant. She will be helping with Q&A, and I'll be moderating today. For the housekeeping, please stay muted. Feel free to use the Q&A feature, and we can answer some questions in that with you. And this is being recorded as well. So we have, like I said, a lot of great panelists today. So I'm going to take just a minute and read everyone's bio. I just want to make sure that folks know a little bit about the great folks who volunteered to be here today. So I'm going to kick it off with Monique Liriano. She serves as the Human Resources Director for College Foundation in Raleigh. Monique graduated from NC State with a degree in business management and started working for CFI not long after that. She has her Human Resource Administration certificate from WIC-TAC. And prior to being the director at College Foundation, she held several different positions here. She's worked in accounts payable, financial services, assistant to HR services director, all kinds of really interesting things within HR. She also has a certification that's called SPHR, and we're going to talk a little bit about certifications this afternoon, which I think will be helpful for everyone because some of the wonderful careers we're talking about today do involve a lot of really interesting certifications. And I know for me, we don't necessarily know what all of these are. So Monique has been with College Foundation for 30 years and counting, and we're so pleased to have her with us today. Okay. All right. Next, I have Julie Hartman. Okay. Julie Hartman works fully remote. So this is a good thing as students that are on are thinking through this, that she works fully remote. She's an implementation project manager for a company based out of Maryland, but lives here in North Carolina. She's got a little over 5 years experience working full-time as a project manager. Before that, she worked over a decade as an operations manager in the student loan servicing industry before returning to get a master's in business administration with a focus on project management. Shortly after graduating, she took the certification test to gain her project management professional credentials, which is that PMP you see after Julie's name up here. You see MBA, so you've got master's in business, and then PMP, project management professional. And so now she's full-time and doing that, and she found her place, and she really loves what she's doing every day, which is a lot to be said, I think, for folks to like what you're doing every day. So third, we have Tina Viglucci. Okay, she's worked as a Spanish materials specialist, a special outreach coordinator, manager and director of Hispanic services at public libraries in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. And for the past 2 years, she's been at the New Hanover County Library in Wilmington, which is exactly where I am and Kate is. We are over here in Wilmington. So we've got all that. In the past 2 years, she has been over here as a reference librarian. So we've got some really great information to share about that. She got her master's degree in library science at the University of New York in Albany in 2007. Okay. And we have Lauren Pender. Lauren is a native of Pikeville, North Carolina. Some of you might know about that. She graduated from Mount Olive College in 2006 with a bachelor's degree in human resource management. So she's got a background in HR management and then also a bachelor's of science in business management. So she's at ECU. She's in the College of Business. Before that, she was in human resources for 15 years and office management. So she's got experience with that also. In her free time, she enjoys traveling, spending time with her family and friends. She also sings, and fun fact, she is a wedding and event coordinator. So we're going to pull Lauren over to possibly answer a few questions about that as well. I know that's really exciting, being wedding and event coordinator. And then last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Brianna Clark. She's a professor in event management. So she's at High Point University. She has a background working with public agencies and nonprofit organizations, running programming and events, and she got her PhD in 2011. So if anyone has questions about, that accelerated degree, just ask some questions about that as well. She worked in 4 years in Philadelphia at Temple and has been at High Point University for 6 years. She has degrees in sports management and community recreation, and due to working within an event industry, has an understanding of the hospitality industry. So the moral of the story here is we have an absolute wealth of knowledge on here for everyone. So we are really thrilled to have folks on here. So again, I'm April. I am your moderator. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes and make sure we all know who CFNC is and why we're doing this. About 2 minutes, and then we're going to start moving into some panelist questions. Okay. So what's CFNC? Hopefully everyone on here knows what it is. We are a free resource provided to you by the state of North Carolina. Just by being a student here in the state, you get to use all the resources for free. You might use the website most frequently, resources in your high school, and you will be using it a lot senior year. So for those of you that may not be seniors, you will be using it a lot senior year for all kinds of stuff to get ready for whatever comes next. If it's, some sort of post-secondary training, which when we talk about post-secondary training, we mean a community college. We mean a 4-year school. We mean a public school. We mean a private school. So it could be a credential. It could be a certification, associate's degree. It's all kinds of stuff that falls under that umbrella of getting training after high school. So if you're not sure what you want to do yet, hopefully, you're very likely interested in something in this area since you're here. But if you still want to take some career assessments, you can do that on CFNC. Make sure you have your username and password, write it down somewhere, don't lose it. And you can go into Plan for a Career and then learn about yourself. And this is where you're going to find a bunch of career assessments. And these are really good to get your brain rolling, because if any of us, including parents, including all of our grown-ups, if we all sat in a room and said, right, you have an hour, write down every career you can possibly think of, I am going to tap out. There's no way I'm going to remember just so many things. And there are so many different things to do, just as we have represented on this panel today. So do some assessments, see some things you might be interested in. We usually even encourage students to do those who know exactly what they want to go into, just because sometimes there are some very similar careers that you didn't know about that you might find interesting, or you might not. So when you go on and take an assessment, you'll get a list of colleges that interest you. And here is some examples of what you'll find. So you'll get information about the career, salary, what they do, which is what we're here to talk about today. What do these folks do? You've got practitioners on here, so folks that work in the field. And then you've got folks that also teach others how to work in that field. So we've got the best of both worlds on here today. But you can take a look and see what kind of job openings there are and all that stuff. And then you have part 2, and that is what colleges offer those programs. So that's part 2. So you figure out what you want to do, and we figure out how to get there. Okay, so I need a degree in this, it looks like, whatever it might be, and which colleges, because not every college offers the same thing. If you're looking at something like English, yeah, a lot of institutions offer English. If you're looking for event management and something in hospitality, not every college offers what you're looking at. So you've really kind of got to do some research and make sure that you're headed, hopefully, to an institution that has got some programs that you are interested in. We do want to let you know that Countdown to College is set for October 2024. So those of you that are juniors, take a picture and mark this down for next year. You should have advertisements from your counselors and college advisors in the fall. College application week will be the week of October 21st. It is the week when a lot of our institutions in North Carolina waive their application fees, and we are extending it through the weekend. Please take note that this does not mean that there is technical assistance over the weekend. We can't really have our call center folks come in and work over the weekend for that, and your colleges aren't going to provide extra staff to answer the call if you have a technical issue. But those applications will be free that are waiving through 11:59 Sunday, October 27th. Who's waiving? That's great. That's great, Miss April. Who's waiving? On October 1st, we'll put that information on our website, so you'll see that full list, okay? So once again, I just wanted to throw names out there one more time of all of our great folks here today to help you. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. So we are going to work through each of our folks here, and I want everyone to just take a minute, introduce themselves, and talk a little bit about college and career and such that you are representing today. So we're going to kick it off with Dr. Clark, if that's okay. Just kick you right in there, right? If you just want to tell us real briefly, about yourself and how you're joining us here today.
And what was the last question? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. What careers or majors you're representing today.
Right. Yeah. So yes, as I mentioned, I have degrees in sport management and recreation management. Some of you might be interested in jobs in tourism, maybe even hospitality. They all really relate to one industry called the leisure industry. So my PhD is actually in leisure studies, which all of this falls under. Some schools have tourism, parks, and recreation. Some schools have tourism and hospitality. Some schools have it all. Sometimes the hospitality is in a business school and something else, and recreation is in a college of ed. They can be found in different schools too. Here at High Point, they're in the School of Communication, which works really well because events are a tool in which we communicate with people. They are also used for marketing purposes. So there's lots of reasons why events are used basically to make money, to spread community awareness, to build well-being and community. So if you have an interest in any of those areas, they're very much connected, but they also are distinctly different. Specifically within events, people can work, if you're thinking of a sporting game, for instance, sport management is about how do you operate the business of sport. But if you're interested in, say, the fan engagement, the halftime shows like the Super Bowl halftime show, or like the fan fest that they do before the games, or maybe the working with some event marketing, that is event management. So that's how that is different from sport management. Now, if you want to do weddings, or I would say milestone events such as retirement parties, birthday parties, those types of things, those happen in places of hospitality like hotels or country clubs. That's where events and hospitalities management is really similar. But we're focused in event management on the overall creation of the event and attendees as a group, whereas hospitality is really focused on the client and the guest. So that's how they differ. Events also are trade shows, corporate meetings, festivals, basically any gathering of people for a purpose. And that purpose could be for revenue generation, building of community, well-being, marketing a product. So that is what we teach our students, is to work in any realm of event management, which is for the business world to the nonprofit world and the public world. So some of you maybe grew up going to movies in the park in your downtown parks and recreation programs. Yeah, so that's how parks and recreation is really related to events. So if you want to do kayaking and outdoor tours, that's not really event management. But if you want to run their event centers, like I know my town of Kernersville, North Carolina, is building a new event center. So my students be prepared to work in those buildings and bring events to those spaces, or any concerts that are held outside in the park, or movie nights. Those are large gatherings of people, or even small for a specific purpose. But not doing necessarily tours or teaching skills, like in recreation. So you can see that from a tourism standpoint, why do you all go to concerts? So concerts is another area of employment and event management. So many of you, I'm sure, enjoyed the, if you didn't get to go, watching Taylor Swift's Era Tour on TV. People who put that on, are event managers, big live events. So those are an area as well. Our program here at High Point teaches you how to work in all of those, but I want to make it really clear to you that event management is often segmented into these other degree programs. So a lot of schools will have a park and recreation degree, and then they'll have a concentration in events. Or there'll be a tourism and hospitality degree, and they'll have a concentration in events. And it's not a separate degree program, and you're only going to learn about business events really in those types of programs, or in Park and Rec, you're really only going to learn about the public sector for those events. We have created more of a holistic understanding of events and all of the industries that it encompasses, and I think a real true understanding of the industry overall. So I know that's long, but it's a really big industry because it exists in every sector and in every business. So I challenge you to go ask whoever you live with, who's your event manager at work? It could be client engagement. So anybody who does client engagement is an event manager. It can be anybody who markets a product through events is an event manager. So it's everywhere, and it's very employable, and it's a really fun industry.
Yes, and I can see that too with the event. I mean, there's so many different places, and half of the hat I wear is that too, even though that's not the field that I'm technically, but it's really fun, right? For thinking through things, and I think that the whole panel represents today. If we have students on that maybe have an interest in wearing different hats and don't want to do the same thing every day, a lot of these careers are for you. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. We are going to go over to Julie Hartman. So Ms. Hartman, and we have the same question here. So tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good dovetail, I think, because I think project management is not obviously not event management, but it's that same kind of flavor of work. But my focus is more, or what I'm representing is more in the professional sphere, where really any company that you have has projects that need to be managed. And what a project is, outside of, I know, really simplistic to start with, but a project is something that has a beginning and an end. So many businesses have core businesses that continue regularly day in, day out, but those businesses also need to have to do things that are out of their norm. And in order to get those things done, they need leadership around those events. So for example, putting in a new phone system, or doing something in their organization, converting to a new platform for HR or for software or payroll. All of those things need to be done for the business to be successful, but they're not day in, day out stuff. They're things that have a discrete beginning and end. And so there's a lot of work in the professional environment for those who are tasked with the role of ensuring that those projects are done well, on time, and on budget. And so there's a whole field of professionalism where you can get certified to help to do those things. One other thing I wanted to add about the profession is there's kind of a lot of flavors, just as Dr. Clark said, around event management. There's a lot of flavors of project management. So for example, any bridge that is built needs a project manager to make sure that all of the materials are there on time, and that the timing is good, and you have a schedule, and you have all your resources. And so there's for those who are interested in that kind of being on site, being out of an office, doing those things, there are jobs that can be more attractive to people who want to do that. Or if you're more you could be someone who's working for a company who does software development. Like anytime Apple has an upgrade on a phone, there's a project manager somewhere behind the scenes making sure that all the details that need to be in place before they can release that new software upgrade are in place, along with the team that actually does the specific details. So that's a whole different type of project management, requires a lot of the same skill set, but you're just working in a different area. So I think I just want to encourage everyone that there's lots of different flavors of project management. And I often get the question, what do project managers actually do? But I would argue that there's a lot of stuff in the world that would not be happening if there weren't someone behind the scenes in a role, making sure all the details were put together and really helping drive change. And so that's a really critical role with lots of different applications out there.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Julie. I just put in the chat, it seems like so far a common theme is organization. You need to be organized. The level you need to be organized, and which thing you need to, it varies, but very good. So next we have Tina, and Tina is with New Hanover County Libraries. So I'm going to pass it over to Tina, if that's okay.
Sure, April, thank you. So I am going to talk about careers in libraries. I started my own library career 16 years ago. As you mentioned, I got my master's degree in library studies at the University of Albany in New York. And it was a second career for me. Before that, I worked for 12 years in public relations and advertising in Puerto Rico. And what drew me to librarianship was not just an interest in books, of course, but because I started doing more community work in my neighborhood. I knew libraries were doing that, and that's where life was taking me. So I applied for it and I received a scholarship from the Institute of Museum and Library Studies, and that included working part-time as a research assistant at my library school. During the time I was studying there, it was a degree that I got in 2 years. I also got the opportunity to work in different kinds of library settings. I volunteered at an art and history archive. I worked part-time at the New York State Library in the periodicals department. And I also did my internship at the academic library at the university. Those were all great learning experiences. Incredibly, I ended up working at a public library, which is the one setting I had not worked at before. And the way that happened is when I got my degree and I was looking for a job, my focus was really being able to use my native language, which is Spanish, in my everyday work. And I interviewed at an academic library in Wisconsin and then in a public library in a suburb of Chicago. And I just talked to different people who already worked in the profession, and they said that because of my creative background, they thought the public library was a better fit, and I believe they were right. So for the past 16 years, I worked in 3 different public libraries. I've been a Spanish material specialist, manager, director. I've worked with collections, doing programming, writing and managing grant projects, doing outreach, and a lot of the community work that really drew me to the profession in the first place. And now I'm a reference librarian at New Hanover County Library after having moved to Wilmington 2 years ago to be with family who's been in this area for a long time.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Tina. I love all that information. Next, we have Monique. So Monique, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and the career you're representing today?
Sure, not at all. So as April has already mentioned, I am the Human Resource Services Director at College Foundation. So I get to work very closely with April and Kate and their team on a regular basis. So in HR, Human Resources Management, I'd like to say that we are an employee advocate and support also for management. So basically, well, there's a lot of things that we do, but I would say about 20 years ago, when I first got into HR, it was known mainly for being an area that kind of did the company's paperwork. So when people started work, of course, you have new hire forms and that sort of thing. People thought that, that's what HR did. We were kind of paperwork pushers. And at that time, maybe that was the case, but we've certainly evolved since then. And HR does a lot of stuff, such as keeping companies safe as far as employment laws. You have to know a lot of employment law. And as most of you probably on the call know, every 4 years when our administration in Washington changes, we get this slew of legislation changes. So we're tasked with keeping up with that to make sure that the company is in compliance. We are also the ones who source candidates for various positions. We make sure that we have the right people in the right position and that they are being paid appropriately. If there is any performance management issues, that generally comes through HR for resolution. We do training. We also are responsible, again, like I said, for performance management. And I keep saying that because right now at College Foundation, we are in our performance management period. So I've been doing a lot of that all day long. And we strategize with senior management on succession planning. So you want to make sure that those key employees that you have, as they are preparing to transition out of the workforce, that you have somebody keyed up to take that position, so that the company doesn't go without those key positions. We do have people who choose to specialize in a certain area in human resource management. Maybe it's recruitment, could be compensation, could be training and development, or employee relations. As for myself, I'm what you would consider a generalist. So for me, that means I know a little bit about a lot of stuff. And if I don't know it, I know how to get to those resources to figure it out. So that's basically what human resource management is.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, another theme I was going to put in the chat, but another theme I'm kind of seeing is this people skill, and sometimes our students may not know quite what that means, but I think for a lot of our careers, that means the ability to communicate with others and listen to what's happening and kind of act on what it is they need, and then kind of communicate back, what it is that you can do about that. So thank you so much, Monique. And last but certainly not least, we have Lauren. So Lauren, would you mind telling us a little bit about the college you're at, and then also the careers, plural, that you're representing today?
Absolutely. So I am at East Carolina University. We are within the College of Business, and I'm the assistant director for the Cunanan Center for Professional Success. So essentially, we are part of like career services. So mostly what we do here in the Cunanan Center, there's a team of us, there's 3 of us. We are the resource for over 5,000 students in the College of Business here. They can come to us. We can work with them on resume writing, cover letter writing. We do practice interviews for undergraduate and graduate students. But one of our big pluses is that we are engaged with over 200 employers within North Carolina and outside of North Carolina to help place our students, undergrad and graduate students, into internships. We also offer an IMBA program that we have here. It's a fast track program. And when those students finish up that program, we actually have jobs lined up for them, and they would have worked with those companies in an internship situation prior to. But yes, a lot of internships, a lot of employer engagement, and with 5,000 students, we obviously talk to a lot of students in a lot of different areas. Of course, they are in the College of Business, so like Dr. Clark was saying, I mean, we work with hospitality, we work with entrepreneurship, we work with finance, we work with accounting, management, all of the aspects of College of Business. So we are able to help engage with those students to help them develop professionally and move on and get a job or an internship, or however we can help them in that.
Perfect. Thank you. I was going to say, I know that some folks have taken the career clusters, and you have these conversations, right? But it's important to understand that things do overlap. It's not always just in pockets, right?
Right.
A lot of stuff, just as you heard Lauren say, I mean, there's a lot that's overlapping in that. The career clusters, the idea of taking some of those, it's to kind of move a student in a direction, to learn about themselves, to think about the point is to think about some of your skills, right? Maybe some of the stuff that you are excelling at or comfortable with or happy doing, and how does that hopefully move you into a career that matches that? And so it's just, kind of opening it up to kind of see what's going on with that. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I knew this was going to do this. This is so fun. Okay, so it's fine. We're just going to move past it. All right, we are going to come over to Tina, and we're going to say, in a library setting, can you tell us about some of the variety of positions that are there? and maybe the education that you might need to be in some of those positions. Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry. Nope, I know. We stay muted so nobody hears anything, right?
Thank you. You would think we would have learned that, but I would have learned that by now.
Look at my slide.
Thanks. So different libraries have different titles for the positions available, but generally they will, of course, have librarians. Library positions generally require having a master's degree in library science from a school that's accredited by the American Library Association. That degree is called the MLS, which is Master's in Library Sciences. In some schools, it can also be known as the MLIS, which is Master of Library and Information Science. And as a side note, school librarians in North Carolina, also known as school media specialists, also need to be licensed in order to teach. So besides that MLS or MLIS, they also need to pass a special exam. Again, it varies by library, but most of the time, librarians will be managing collections, managing programming, special projects, leading committees, and managing staff at public, academic, schools, special, or government libraries and archives. The positions for those staff managed by the librarians go by different names, but commonly they're referred to as library associates, assistants, clerks, and pages. And you can get a job for these positions without a master's degree. Typically, they require a high school diploma or equivalent. A lot of the experience is going to be gained on the job through training and just doing the job every day. That being said, there are certificate and associate programs out there that include courses directly related to library work. And these can definitely help to give you an advantage for applying when you're applying for a position. They're also really helpful to help explore whether you do want to go ahead with a master's degree, which is a big time commitment and could be expensive. Also, I did want to mention, you might be surprised at the related studies that could be helpful for some of these library assistant positions, because they may be focused on serving specific populations. For example, children, middle school, high school students, seniors. Just as an example, one of our colleagues got an outreach job serving seniors because he happened to have a minor in aging studies. So again, different interests and courses you may have taken in the past coming together for very focused, specialized positions in libraries. Let's see, and some of those courses could be early learning, special education, literature, cultural studies. I also did want to mention there, if you want to work in libraries, there are also many opportunities for people who are not librarians or library assistants. Usually, the larger libraries have staff and departments that do, again, very specialized work. A more recent trend is a lot of libraries have social workers. We have social workers and interns. Some have marketing departments with graphic artists and social media coordinators, big for IT people, technicians, programmers. So many different careers can come together in libraries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I went ahead and came to the next slide with the next question because you had started to delve into that. So we just kind of came into that. So that's the same questions. I guess while we're here, Tina, if there's anything else you wanted to add, if not, then you definitely are fine. But I'm thinking the high school. So obviously our students have their core classes they're taking. They also have their electives. And I know I've had conversations with students before really struggling with what to pick for electives. Or taking electives that just have absolutely nothing to do with what they want to study, but it's still, you know, really interesting for them. So we talked a little bit about the courses. Is there anything you wanted to add about courses that they could be taking in high school and excelling at? Like, should they be doing really well in an English class? Does it matter? If we're talking to a student who isn't good with the sciences, is that okay?
And this is gonna sound maybe too general, but I think a general curiosity to know about everything would really serve people working at libraries well, because we are helping people in all sorts of situations with all sorts of information. So I think just that general curiosity to explore and develop new interests and skills will be really good. Of course, anything related to technology also. And I did want to mention volunteering is a great chance to see how things work in the library. And all libraries that I've worked in and most that I know do have teen or high school volunteer programs. So that could be also one area to explore if the library near your town or city, see if they have a volunteer program and you can see what it's like.
That is awesome. Thank you. That's such a good thought for any of these careers. There's not many folks probably in the field that if we had a high school student reach out to us to say, we need coffee, I'd love to just talk about different things, or I'd like more information. Pretty sure we all say yes. I've done it a couple of times and I think it's fun, you know? So I don't know. So we'll come over to Lauren next, if that's all right. So same question for Lauren. So are there any courses in high school that the students should be considering taking, anything that they might want to be excelling at? Oh, nope. Okay, it's okay. We'll come back to you, Lauren. No worries. We're going to come up to Monique if that's okay. And so it's the same question for Monique, and then we'll come back to you if you've got your audio working there. So for Monique, and also, yes, any courses that they would be taking in high school? What are some of the things that make this relevant for our high school students?
The first thing I would mention, April, I think is something that you've already mentioned and probably would be relevant for any other panelists and many other positions is communications. I think the majority of positions, but certainly HR, we're talking to people all day long. We're in rooms with senior management. We're in rooms with, employees, line employees. We're explaining benefits. We're trying to break down your pay. In some companies that are a little smaller, such as CFI, payroll resides in human resources as well. So people want to know, why did this much come out of my paycheck? We've got to explain pre-tax and post-tax and that sort of thing. So you have to be a good communicator. We handle, like I said before, employee relations issues. So I think maybe some psychology classes actually would be beneficial because you want to get at why people behave in a certain manner. Anything relating to generational differences, I think they say now we have 4 generations in the workplace. Each of those generations, of course, there are going to be exceptions, but in general, each of those generations tend to value different things. So again, courses about generational differences would be very beneficial as you're interacting with employees and trying to figure out what works best for them. How do they best communicate? Some like to text and email. Others prefer face-to-face or telephone. So that would definitely be beneficial as well. And I think those are probably some of the main courses. Tina also mentioned technology. Again, pretty much with just about any position these days, classes in technology, we communicate with our computers. What in the world would we do without our computers? So any classes in learning technology would also be beneficial.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And, there is this conversation around excelling in courses that are very, very specific to what you want to do. But at the same time, a lot of us do serve as generalists in a lot of different ways. And so that's going to include the technology piece, maybe communication skills, maybe language skills, all kinds of stuff. So, all right, I'm going to come over, Lauren. How's your sound?
I think it's working.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you perfectly. Okay. Same question.
Okay, so as I said earlier, we do work with graduate and undergraduate students. The biggest part of what I like to consider is huge for us is the internships and connecting students with employers. So we offer several different types of events throughout the academic school year. So in the fall and in the spring, we have a huge career fair. There's usually, it fills the Hilton Convention Center here in Greenville. So we have about 200 employers. It's a day-long event. We invite all of our students to come and, of course, come professionally dressed. Bring your resume. It's an opportunity for our students to face-to-face engage with potential employers. The other great thing that we do here is we have a program throughout the academic year as well. On Wednesdays, it's what we call Employer in the Foyer. So some of those employers that we partner with, we actually have them come here to the university, and they kind of camp out for about half a day from about 9:30 in the morning until about 12:30 or 1 o'clock. And they just literally stand in front of their tables with a swag, and they talk to students about, hey, this is our business. This is what we do. What's your major? And just really kind of establish a rapport with those students and give them an opportunity to ask questions in a little more relaxed environment. Let's face it, these are college students. So sadly, sometimes they walk out of class and they have on pajama pants and flip flops. And, you know, having an 8 o'clock class, and you walk out the classroom and there's four of us waiting for you in the hallway. We do advertise it. Obviously, we have flyers and emails and all the things, but it just gives the students a real opportunity to kind of engage, ask questions in a little less formal setting. Because we've all said, a lot of students, 11th to 12th graders, a lot of them do not know what they want to do. There's freshmen and sophomores that in college that are still trying to figure it out. So we really give them the opportunity to talk to really hundreds of employers throughout the school year. AAA, Aflac, Forvis, Sherwin-Williams. We have all these, BB&T, Truist, excuse me. State Employees Credit Union, insurance agents, they all come out and they talk to these students about their field, and the different jobs in those fields. Every company is going to have an HR person. There's so many different things that students can do. Maybe they don't want to do HR in manufacturing, but maybe they want to do HR in the finance industry. So there's just a lot of things that we open students' eyes to that they're just not aware of, and just provides a great service to them to help educate them on all the things that are out there. And then when they finally, figure that out, we meet with them. We teach them how to dress for interviews. We teach them how to speak clearly, slowly, pronunciate their words. It's really kind of like a coaching type situation. But we do provide it here. We do mock interviews, and then we actually do real practice interviews where they need to come in dressed appropriately, and we do a real interview and then critique them on it. The resume writing is also a huge part here. So it gives us the opportunity to meet with the students and kind of teach them how to write a resume. It's harder than you think if you've never done one. And then a cover letter. So many different jobs ask for cover letters. We teach them about how do you provide a good reference. What type of individuals in your life would be good references for you to provide? So there's just a lot of different things, but I just think that really what we do is kind of prepare the students for professional success, just like it says in the title.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Thank you so much. And we're putting some stuff in the chat as we go. So if any of our panelists want to put stuff in the chat, I did put a link to your employer in the foyer. So the link to that. And then we have a resume builder that Kate's going to put in the chat. And if anybody else has some stuff in the chat, you're welcome to add it. So we are going to come over to Dr. Clark and ask the same question. So is there anything that students might want to be thinking about or excelling on in high school as they are considering their career?
So I think that this career really can take anyone with any strength. Like if you want to work, we need people who are good with finance. So event finance is a big part of our industry, a big part of the job. So if you're a real math person, but you want to be more applied, but within a I guess, different kind of world than just kind of banking or something like that, then this would be it. But, really it's for anyone that enjoys, and you don't even have to be an extrovert, because the reality is that there's a lot of, we call it front of the house and back of the house. So if you're a marketing person, you might be developing how you're going to market. You're not necessarily out there doing the marketing. So I want to make that clear that it sounds like it's a forward, front facing industry, and the majority of the jobs are. But if the industry is really exciting to you, it's not like you have to be this particular type of person for it to fit. I just think in general, to be successful in higher education, whether it be community college or a 4-year degree, is writing. A lot of our students are struggling with their writing and have really poor writing skills. And I think a lot of it comes to a lot of you being forced to know how to take a test than actually like knowing how to think and critically and analyze things and then write about it. For instance, I just got a student who wrote her paper entirely from voice to text. So don't get me wrong, technology is amazing and we want you to embrace technology and use that technology, but like editing and those types of really attention to detail is what we're looking for. Working with clients is really important. And we need to be like really meticulous. So if that's kind of more of your attitude, is being really conscientious and meticulous, that like is really and that's required in all your classes, but it's really required in our job too. I also say the best class I ever took in high school is typing. I don't know if it's offered anymore, but if you can't type, you can't work fast anymore. And we have to work really fast in our industry. People demand a lot in a short period of time, from reports to surveys, design to marketing campaigns to run of shows, and like all of it requires fast hands on a typewriter, on a keyboard. So if you don't have that class in high school, I would recommend taking it. But yeah, really paying attention in your English classes, critical thinking skills, and just from technology. I mean, I find that the students I have, you guys are really technologically savvy, but you don't know how to use the technology that we're using in industry, like Microsoft Office. You must know how to write a paper using Microsoft Word. Google Docs is not the only place to do it. So, these are like small things, but really, really impactful if you come into college having those skills. It makes your college career a lot easier.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. You know, and that voice, the talk to text, that's really interesting. Someone turned in a paper. I don't know how many of us have used that in texting to respond to people, and then you look at it and that's not anything like what I say. And there's a big difference, right, between sending messages to my sisters and stuff, and it's fine. You know, they'll get it. They'll
How we
get
talk
it.
and how we write are very different, and for some reason that's not being translated very well, I think, in the classroom.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you. And last but certainly not least for this question, we have Julie Hartman. So, courses in high school, what should we be doing?
So ditto what everyone else said in general around the communication skills and all of that. Obviously, there's lots of overlaps. One thing I wanted to say is I think anything for electives that you have that are focused on things that are gearing you towards a business administration degree, type of degree, when you're getting into either, you know, whatever program you're looking for, next steps. Echoing Dr. Clark, any computer application courses like Excel, PowerPoint, Word, that whole suite you can get. There are programs at a high school level where you can get certifications in Microsoft Office suite, and all of that stuff is going to help you because those are your everyday tools that you're in and out of all the time, no matter what kind of project management you're doing. Some of the more focus stuff like statistics is not going to steer you wrong. I know that's kind of like, I know I wasn't really like thrilled with that topic, but just like anything else, you're asked to analyze data sometimes, manage budgets, project out, and all of that work. Having some of those skills is really helpful for that. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to guess that the things, the organization skills, the communication skills, the typist skills, you know, being able to work a computer, and students, you know, you very well could get into a career that you know how to do a lot of the stuff, but there's things that I still will get asked to do. And I've got to go look on YouTube. I need to watch a video because they exist, right? The video shows me how to run something specific in Excel that maybe I did 3 years ago, but I haven't done since. But at the same time, I have to know what Excel is. I have to be able to open it. I've got to be able to type things in. Hopefully I can move quickly. So those are all really important skills. So thank you all so much. We are going to move over to Ms. Pender and ask a specific question for you, if that's okay. You did talk about this some already. If there's anything that you missed here, expanding on those various programs and career outcomes, right? So those different programs and what careers that our students are going into when they come in through ECU's Center for Professional Development.
So since we are in the College of Business, I think I said earlier that we meet with students in all the majors, entrepreneurship, finance, accounting, marketing, business management, administration, human resources, hospitality. I mean, all of those fall under the College of Business here. So we have people doing internships this summer. They're in Disney World. That's obviously going to fall under your kind of hospitality, event planning, that type of situation. But then we also have some of our graduate assistants that are leaving us, and they have found jobs with the CIA and things of that nature because there's so many different areas. So inside the College of Business, there are so many different areas of study that you can enter into. You're not just, oh, you've just got to do business management. Entrepreneurship is a very popular major at East Carolina right now. And it really encompasses a lot. It kind of gives you a tad bit of an intro to all of the different, you got to take some accounting, you have to take some marketing, you have to take some business classes. So it kind of engages you in those entry level to all of those for future entrepreneurs that want to start their own business. But there's jobs out there for all of them. And we just hope that we prep them and equip them with all the tools and the knowledge to be able to find the job that fits them best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to move on to another question. And again, students, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. And all of this is flexible. We can, take some questions on your side and stop with some of these formal ones. So we're all flexible. We just want to answer questions that you might have. So we are going to come over and start with Monique, if that's okay. So kind of switching around, the order of stuff here. So thinking of your own career, Monique, in the HR field in general, what might a day look like? So take us through maybe just one day.
Yeah. Again, I'll start out by saying it's going to depend on whether you're in one of those specialty areas or if you're a generalist. And again, I'm coming from the perspective of a generalist, HR generalist. So I do a little bit of everything. My week usually starts out with a check-in with my manager, who's a VP, and I kind of get my marching orders for the week. Are there any priorities that she has for me for the week? And then I go to check-in emails, anything from, hey, I need my password reset for our HRIS, which is our human resource information system. That's where we go in to run payroll. That's where our employees put their time in. That's also where benefits information is stored. That's where they'll go to complete performance appraisals and that sort of thing. I may have one of the managers who needs to get some additional personnel in, some help in their area. So I may be tasked for the day with helping them create a job description so that we can then go to our partners and post the position and try to source the best candidate. I may be coordinating interviews, making job offers. There are lots of times when we do have a new position, or even sometimes for existing positions, we need to, for whatever reason, take a closer look at pay. So there are various sources that we use to do what we call benchmarking, which is basically where we look out in the market and try to figure out what other professionals are making for that position, or what their salaries are for that particular position. And we kind of use that as a gauge to determine what we need to be paying our people in those positions. We have to make some time during the day or during the week to read articles, like human resources related articles, to find out what has changed. I lots of times use SHRM for my information, which is the Society of Human Resource Management. And what other stuff do I do? Like I said, right now, we are in the middle of performance appraisals. So lots of dates. I'm going in looking to make sure that people have their information updated. I'm releasing forms. I'm answering employee and management questions about performance appraisals. I may get some special projects from our president or one of the other managers or VPs that requires me to do some research. Ms. Pender talked about internships. At CFI, we've recently started an internship program. So that was a big special project for me. I had to do a lot of research to pay or not pay. How many hours are they allowed to work? If it's an international student, what are the special requirements? That sort of thing. So I had to do a lot of research and create lots of different forms for that particular project. At CFI, Human Resources is also tasked with an employee newsletter. We try to keep everyone informed, people like April and Kate who work off-site in various areas of the state. We send out a newsletter and try to keep everybody, again, informed about what's going on at the corporate office, and somebody's had a baby or gotten married, or maybe there is going to be some benefit changes. We're getting to the point where we're close to our open enrollment. So doing a lot of research on that as well. We have an engagement committee, and HR works very closely with that engagement committee to try to come up with fun activities for our employees when they are on site. So it really varies what I'm doing from day to day, week to week, and it depends a lot on the time of the year. But in general, that's some of the stuff that I would be doing on a daily basis.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We are going to come over and ask the same question to Julie, and then we are going to move on to another question just for time purposes. I appreciate everybody so much. So Julie, what about you? What is a day life of the project manager? I can't imagine.
Very
There's
exciting,
a lot of stuff going
on. Yeah. So just to help clarify what kind of flavor of project manager I am. So I'm an implementation project manager. So I work for a company that provides software applications for organizations that run clinical research trials. And so those organizations need platforms and software to help them manage all of their information. But in order to implement, as you can imagine, these are very large organizations with lots of impacts. And so it takes months and months and months to switch from what they're using to what we're going to be supplying them with. And I work on their teams to make sure that we implement that successfully and that they meet all their needs. So that's the flavor that I am. Lots of different ways to be a project manager, but that's what I'm doing currently. And so as being in that role, I'm in a lot of client meetings where I have to be the public face of my company. And so I'm on Zoom all the time on those meetings. That's a lot of my day. I would say probably 60% of my day, every day, I'm on meetings with clients, talking to them, checking in on their status and doing all of that. I have another large chunk of my time is preparing for all those meetings. I joke, there's a lot of people online that talk about just like getting on Zoom calls all day and like zoning out and not paying attention. I wish that was my life, but instead every single call I'm on, I'm responsible for keeping that thing moving and knowing what's happening and having my team know. So there's a lot of communication going on internally about what are we doing for those meetings. Prepping and materials. So a lot of my time of day is done that. And then if I'm not doing that, then there's a lot of I'd say for the rest of the 10% of my day, it's administrative, where I'm documenting what I did. I'm documenting billable hours for the client. So I have to say what I spent time doing, and so that they can bill them appropriately. I'm documenting work progress so that I can tell my team what's going on, that I can provide that to the client so that they can tell their leadership what's going on. So just so back to what I was talking about around the skills, that's where I'm in and out of those applications all day long, every day, documenting what's going on, keeping track of all the minutia, and making sure everything gets done. So that's my typical day.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. We are going to come over to Dr. Clark and ask a question specifically for you. So can you expand on event management programs and into hospitality? So we talked about the fact that these, all mesh. So there's so many different things, and you did talk to this a little bit already, but if we're thinking about specific skills, you did talk about those specific skills, but how do they mesh together in some of these similar careers?
So hospitality management is more running, just like sport management is running those organizations within that industry sector. So you want to run a hotel, you want to run a restaurant, you want to run a country club, you want to have these one-on-one interactions with your clients. That's very much hospitality, right? Providing these hospitality spaces in which your guests, because they are guests, right, have this experience in which they feel welcomed and that there's no other place that they should be, right? Events are one of those hospitality places, right? You want to treat your attendees that way, but rather than running an organization, you're actually very similar to what Jill is saying. Events are a project. So you're managing this one project, but it can form in a variety of these spaces. So it can be in that hospitality space, or it can be in that sporting space, or it can be in that recreational space. So if you know that you want to be around a gathering of people, and create these experiences for these groups of people, if you want to be an experience designer, we say, and very much a strategist, you're like, everything is about strategy, about how you're going to roll this whole project out to create this experience. That is event management. Running the organizations it's a management degree. So you get all these management classes, but you're learning about it from a very specific industry. So from hospitality management, tourism management, recreation management, hospitality management, you are learning how to manage within these specific industries and the specific nuances that are there. Event management is also a business degree, but it encompasses so many different industries. So it's about the gathering of people that can happen in any of them. So we don't focus just on that one industry, which can be a good and a bad thing. So for instance, if you go for a focus in event management from a recreation program, like I come from recreation and leisure, I mean, I have a strong understanding of what leisure is, and I have these strong underpinnings, these pillars of understanding what the field is. I understand the field of recreation and the field of sport immensely. If you get a degree in tourism or hospitality with a concentration event, you're going to understand that field very well, but the concentration isn't on the event side, right? The events is like secondary. So in our program, the event is learning how to run an event and manage an event and being an event professional is the first and most primary importance. And then learning about the industries in which it happens is secondary. So our students have less knowledge about the specific industries and more knowledge about how to run that project. So that's kind of the main difference is that those other programs are focused on an industry. Ours is focused on the event industry, but it exists in all of them. It exists in business, it exists in travel, it exists in, you name the industry, it exists. So it's very versatile and broad. I think that many students, and I want to stress this, is just because you love to watch sports, that doesn't mean you should manage a sports team. Just because you love to travel doesn't mean you should be a travel agent. Just because you love to go to concerts doesn't mean you should be an event manager. So while I am truly believe that your passions should be intertwined into your work, you have to understand that doing event management is you are not the attendee. You're not hanging out listening to the concert. You're working. Your feet are going to hurt. You're busy. You know, you could be working weekends and nights, or you could be working days, because our industry is so broad. You can have the 9-to-5 job or the weekend job and the night job. So I really empower all of you to think about, you know, what is my passion, but is my passion really what I want to do for a living? Because they don't have, you can be passionate about what you do for work, and you can have hobbies and passions outside of it. And I think sometimes we find that students, and we find this more in sport, because sport is really sexy and it sells. The students all want to do sport management, and then they realize, like, wait, I have to take sport finance. I have to take that. And they're like, oh, I want to take comm classes, or I want to take, well, like, that's not sport business. So please look at curriculums, look at what the classes are, and realize that they are jobs. You aren't necessarily the one, you're not a consumer. You are a practitioner, and the practitioner role is very different from the consumer role.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all super helpful. I love all this information. And I know for me, I'm learning things too, because I, for example, did not realize, obviously, but in rec management, and I think down in Carolina Beach, where we go all the time, I'm in Wilmington. So they have movie night planned out for every Sunday throughout all of that. And, you know, we go and we enjoy them a lot, but thinking about who plans all of those events down there, they've got some really great events there. And then Leland has a lot of really cool stuff going on. That's just interesting to think through. And I did put in the chat a few different links, and the latest one is High Point University's event management program. So thank you. So we are going to move on to another question, but what I'd like to do is just do a real quick round robin of some of these things. So just let us know, in those professions that you're talking about, do you more frequently feel like the students are going to work indoors or outdoors? Are you working morning, evenings, weekends? Are you dressing up? Are you dressing down? Are you working, you know, on the weekend and the evening? So just real quick, we'll do a round robin. So we will just start with Tina, if that's okay. So indoor, outdoor, morning, evening.
I won't lie, indoors most of the time, though, if you prefer the outdoors, outreach. So you can either apply for an outreach position or make outreach more of a focus in your position. We're really more outward driven every time in libraries. So movies outside in the park is something we do. Story times in the park, walking, book clubs, staff tables at farmers markets, festivals. Some libraries have book bikes. So again, indoors most of the time, but you can create some outdoor opportunities to meet people where they're at, which is why we do it. And then morning or evening, yeah, you will be working both mornings and evenings. Sometimes I come in 8 to 5, sometimes it's 10 to 7. I work one Saturday every month and one Sunday every 2 months, but actually this week I'm working Saturday and Sunday because I'm doing outreach events at the park on Saturday just because I wanted to go to Earth Day. I like it, I enjoy it. What else? Flip-flops or heels? Every library I've been at has been pretty flexible. The focus has always been wear something that will be comfortable for the job that you're doing and safe. Like if you're carrying book carts and tons of books, yeah, maybe flip-flops, maybe you want to protect your toes. And then, oh, and I already mentioned weekdays or weekends. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Lauren, do you want to kind of talk next, indoor, outdoors?
Sure.
Weekends?
Indoors and outdoors. For instance, today we have what's in Pitt County this week. We're Grow Local, so it's a local outreach. So we had a group of 7th graders come today. So we kind of did a small little campus tour, took them around, did a learning activity, took them to lunch in the dining hall. So indoors and outdoors, we have events inside and outside. Yes, I do work mornings and evenings. I also work nights and weekends, both because we have to do events graduation coming up. We have to work graduation. So that's goes right on until the last graduation's at 7 p.m. So that's a very long day. So flip-flops or heels, we get to wear both, depending on what we have going on. On Fridays, we always dress down, really dress down. We can wear flip-flops anytime we want. But there's times when we have to put on our heels and represent the College of Business. So it's a very versatile work environment.
That's perfect. And I'll bet a lot of our students are going to find, but maybe like most of the time I'm in flip-flops, most of the time, but not always, right? Just sometimes it changes.
Well,
So the question for
I can say I also worked in banking for several years. So if you're thinking of banking, finance, those types of situations, there are no flip-flops.
Yes,
That's
right. My husband is a advisor, and he dresses up every single day. There's dressing up, but he likes it.
Unless you work remotely, in which case you might be able to be professional on top, flip-flop on the bottom.
Right. Yeah, that's the reality. And it's about getting the work done, right? And the communication, all those great skills we've talked about. So that's perfect. Okay. So Monique, same question. Tell us, do you work evenings? Are you remote? Do you work inside?
It's going to vary for HR in general based on the industry and the particular organization. But as for me, it's indoors. Morning or evening, it's morning. I may have to work some evenings, but that's not the norm. Flip-flops or heels. Used to be heels. After the pandemic, we switched to flip-flops because we are hybrid. So that means that we work remote some days, and then we're in the office some days. And the days that we're in the office, we're okay to actually dress casual. Weekdays or weekends, generally weekdays. Every once in a while, I may have to work a weekend to get something done, but generally it's going to be weekdays.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to send something over in the chat in a minute just to talk about this, because it's different depending on the day and where you're at, but it also is really important for you guys to understand, students that are on and listening to this later, because we'll have a lot of students listen later on YouTube. It's really important to understand how to dress professionally when you need to. So, all right, same question, Dr. Clark.
Yeah, so similar to what was just said, it really depends on the industry. So for instance, recreation, you can wear your chacos and your shorts and your t-shirts, and you're going to be, and that's your work outfit. Because you're outdoors most of the time. But if you're working in sport, it depends. Is it a youth sport organization? Is it more recreational, or is it business-like? If you're working in hospitality, it is business. It's not even business casual. You are in like a matching suit, and certainly dress shoes. Nights or weekends, I mean, it really depends on the types of events. Are you also front of the desk, back of the front of the house, back of the house kind of person? Because if you're doing behind the scenes work, you may not even have to go to the event, versus if you're at the event, it's probably nights and weekends. So I tell my students, who are mostly women, go get your, if you think you want to have a family one day, a lot of them they want to travel, they want to see the world. So a lot of our students travel a lot in their jobs, but then there's a lot of jobs that are out there for their later in life and career when they want to be home, that there's less travel, less weekends. Also, if you become a weddings day coordinator, that doesn't mean you have to stay in weddings forever. You can go into corporate. From corporate, you can go into community or they're all very interchangeable. So the beauty is that you can kind of find the realm that matches where you are in your life at that time. But I'm not going to lie, the majority of the jobs really are nights and weekends, because that's when events happen. But business events happen during the week. So, it really kind of just depends.
Yeah, nope. And that's the answer to everything in life, right? Just depends. But know what they mean. Like I said, I'm about to send. I was looking for the right article, but it's important to know what business casual means. It's important to know what some of these things are, to know how to dress. So, last but not least, Julie, same question.
Yeah, I'll just go short and sweet, tell you what is mostly for me. Indoors, I think there are some outdoor options, but most project managers I know are working indoors most of the day. Got to take the vitamin D. You're not getting it otherwise, unless you're sitting next to a window. I work a typical work week, Monday through Friday, which has been great for me. And I have not put on a pair of heels in quite a long time because everywhere I'm on Zoom all the time. And I do have, there's once in a while I'll have to go on site, and I've done some of that work. So every once in a while I need to be fully professional. And then I typically work weekdays, but once in a while we'll have to work weekends to support a project. So I do think that's something, as a project manager, you do have to be willing to sometimes work off typical hours to help with stuff.
Right. That makes sense. All right, perfect. So Julie, while we have you, we're going to just stick with you and ask your individual question. And I think we have one more question after this, and then we're just going to see if there's anything else that our panelists wanted to add, and students feel free to throw some questions in the chat. So we know that there's a lot of credentials, and I think pretty much everybody on here could probably talk about credentials. So if anyone else wants to throw some stuff in after Julie, that's fine too. So I know you have your MBA, you have your PMP, and then you have a link in here to a PMI certificate. Do you mind talking a little bit about those credentials?
Yeah, so this is this resource right here, first off, PMI.org is it's the Project Management Institute, and it's a great resource for anyone looking at any type of project management field. There's a national level organization, and then there's a chapter that's in North Carolina that's based currently in the Triangle area, but there's sometimes meetups outside of that area. So great resource. And this particular page that I directed you to is the full slate of certifications. So I have the most basic certificate. When I say that, I mean the most common. I guess basic is not the word. The most common, what most people use when they're full-time with multiple years of experience. It's the PMP, Project Management Professional. But there's also something that if you're looking to really get into project management right as a career track, as you're working through your next step in higher education, there's a thing called the CAPM, which is CAPM, and it's basically it's certified associate in project management. And for that, you just need to have taken some courses that are focused in project management. And the certification I have, it requires you to demonstrate a lot of experience, about 3 years of experience. But the CAPM is a great way to get into the industry where you're still demonstrating project management knowledge, but those employers know, okay, you've got the education that you need, and you've tested that you know that, and it helps to get into some of those more entry-level project management jobs right out of school if you want to get into that type of role right away. So just, I think, and I already touched on all the different flavors, but this is a really great resource that I've linked here if you're at all interested. This whole website has a ton of great information about project management as a career that I'd encourage you to look at.
Thank you. And I just added another, I didn't realize it was such a long link, so it's overshadowing yours, I'm sorry. But this is about this CAMP that you just mentioned. So there's another link that talks a little bit about that. So perfect. Okay, so we are going to come back over to Ms. Pender. And would you mind pulling double duty today? And I know that you do some side work as a wedding and event planner. Do you mind talking just a little bit about that?
No, I don't mind at all. I do want to say that I do not do it for a living. I do it because I enjoy it, and it's fun for me. It is a side gig, and I've been doing it for almost 20 years. But it requires patience. It requires leadership, lots of organization, and clear communication. If I was going to tell anybody anything, those are 4 of the things that I would say. You are managing for a wedding, you are managing potentially someone's day that they've been waiting for their entire lives. So you are involved with emotions, you're involved with sometimes catastrophes, because something could always go wrong. So you kind of always have to be on your A game, you have to be on your toes, you have to be prepared. You have to be every person in that bride and groom's life in a day's time. You dry the tiers, you sew buttons, you pin corsages, you direct food, you direct music, you do everything. So you have to be able to multitask. And if you get overwhelmed easily, it can be a very overwhelming day or weekend. But it is so much fun at the end of the day. Events, like Dr. Clark was saying, events can range. So it can be the simplest event where it's pretty much, you've got maybe 30 people coming together, easy to manage, with some hors d'oeuvres and cocktails. That's going to be a lot easier to manage an event than a 300 guest full seated dinner. So there are so many different levels of wedding and event planning. There's also different needs, different depths. Wedding planners, you have planners, directors, coordinators, you have all these different wedding titles that can be, and that can be from the very beginning with the bride and groom choosing their venue, choosing their caterer, choosing their florist, choosing their minister. I mean, all of the things. But you could meet someone, a bride and groom, that have it under control, and they only need you to be there for the rehearsal the night before and the day of the wedding. So you can have huge needs, and you can have smaller needs. But like I said, you have to be organized. You have to be able to take control of a situation. You have to be able to keep it cool, calm, and collected, because you have to remember you're in charge. You're supposed to know what's going on. So having that ability to really, act fast. Something's happened. It's okay. We've got this. So there's just a lot of different aspects that I feel like you have to be juggling. Juggling is required. But it's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. But at the end of the day, your feet hurt. So wear comfortable shoes.
One thing I just
Right,
wanted to
that's the-
say was I was
Go ahead, Julie.
thinking when I was in college, I did work study in the library, and I considered getting my library science degree and going in that direction. I also interned as a wedding planner when I was in. I just think it's funny because there's just so much overlap of interest here, that this cluster of things. And I'm happy where I ended up, but I feel like I probably would have been happy going down those roads as well. Just a lot of overlap, I think.
Agreed.
Yes. Really, and it does kind of seem, if you're looking at this from a different angle, we've got event management, we've got instructors on, we've got hospitality management, we've got recreation management, we've got project management, we've got library sciences, we have human resources, it seems like the folks we have, it kind of seems like it's all so different, but the reality is, back to what we were saying, at the beginning, it's about the skill set and it's about the interest, and there's so many overlaps with this that you tend to, be interested in some of the same stuff. You tend to have some of the same skills. Keeping yourself cool, calm, and collected is necessary in every single career that you're going to have students. And the idea of fake it till you make it, it's there, right? Things go wrong. When we started this presentation at 3:30, I'll tell you, technology wasn't my friend, and we had quite a few issues, but we did it. We pushed through. Everything's fine. We started 3 minutes late, but you know what? It'll all be okay. Everything is flexible, I think, for the most part. A lot of things are. But when you talk about the event planning, and if you are a wedding planner for somebody, that wedding isn't flexible. So you better fake it if you're freaking out inside, right? Because everything's not going well. Well, we're going to pretend it is going well. And so thank you. I really, really appreciate that. So we are coming up on 5 o'clock. We are almost there. I did want to go through our whole fabulous panel one more time and let you guys see if there's another thought you had or anything else that you wanted to add. So I'll start with Tina here in just a minute, if that's okay, and just 1 more minute for each folks. And then again, students, throw your questions in the chat. You are welcome to unmute also. Actually, I don't know if I have it enabled on here for you to unmute, but I'm going to triple check while we go through. So Tina, any last thoughts of anything that we've been talking about here?
Sure. A couple of thoughts. One is we've been talking about, when you go into a library, or a library career, you may think you're going in for one reason. And that this comes from talking to a bunch of colleagues. Let me try to be quicker. But like one colleague thought she was going into archives because she felt, I want to be at the back of the house. I don't want to deal with people that much. And she ended up being our tech services librarian and loves meeting with people to provide tech help one-on-one. You may come in thinking, I'm going to be surrounded by books. I'm going to learn everything from books, but really you're going to learn the most from the people you're serving. That's who you're going to be learning from. So just be open to when you go into a field, it's fine. It's okay to discover, to expand your interests and kind of change your focus a little when you go into it. And I guess that's my thought.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And so Dr. Clark has got to head into another meeting, so we really appreciate her being here and providing all this information. So if you have any questions, she has put her email in the chat. But we are going to hop over to Monique and see if Monique had any last minute thoughts or anything for our group.
The only thing I would add is in the same vein as what Tina just said. Just be open, be flexible. Try to start with something that you really enjoy doing, because chances are you're going to be doing it for a very long time, and it's just going to make your life a lot easier if your career is something that you enjoy doing every day. May not be the career that makes you the most money, but money can't buy happiness, right? So just do something that you enjoy doing and be open and flexible to change.
That's perfect. The open and flexible to change. Like, I think a lot of our students have gone through this environment, right, where they've had all kinds of things changing, and hopefully you've been able to kind of use that to your advantage, right, and learn from that. So thank you so much. And we are going to come over to Julie and ask that same question, and then we'll finish up with Lauren.
I really don't have anything else to add. I would just say, like, everyone's just echoing what everyone's saying, be inquisitive, and there's so many options. There is a lot out there. I know it feels like you hear a lot of gloom and doom about things right now and just stuff going on, and it's hard, but there are lots of opportunities out there and careers and things that you can get into, that it's not going to be drudgery every day. You're going to enjoy at least part of your day.
Right. That's a goal. And I do tell my kids that. I say, you might not enjoy every single day of what you go into, but I like most of the days, right? Not every day, because that's not reality.
Everything's going to have some negative aspects to it, but it's not all gloom and doom. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you end up meeting some fun colleagues at work and go have lunch with them, like I have done with our darling Julie when she was over with us. And I get to do with Kate sometimes, so it's good. It's good. All right, Lauren. So any final thoughts here?
I think if I had to give any of you any advice, it would be use all the opportunities that are presented to you. If you can do a shadowing opportunity, if you can do an internship, even, the summer between your senior year and freshman of college, like, take all the opportunities that you can to experience all the different careers that are put in front of you. That's going to be a surefire way for you to kind of understand and find, where your niche is and what makes you happy, what drives you, what is it that you think you can do every single day. Take those opportunities, do those internships, make those connections, join the clubs. All the things that are offered, all the organizations at school and in college, and those will open so many doors for you. But shadowing and internships, do it. I highly encourage you to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I wanted to come back and just share this last slide again for anyone who needs it. With contact information, with names. And you guys are welcome, exactly what Lauren just said. It's about these different skills, and it's also about who you know. So you guys all who have been on here and who are listening to this on YouTube later. It's great. Now you've got some contacts in human resources and different folks, so we appreciate it. So again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time today.